여러분. Hello everyone. Our story today comes from Korea, a country in Eastern Asia. In today's story about the blind man's daughter, you will notice that the girl's name is Shim Chung. Chung is her first name, like Jenny or Maria or Susie. And Shim is her family name. As in many Asian cultures, the family name is set first. So, if your name is John Smith in Korea, you would be called Smith John. Listen now to the tale of the blind man's daughter. "500 years ago, maybe more, there lived in a certain village a girl named Shim Chung. Her mother had died long ago, and now her father was going blind. Shim Chung was very beautiful. Her face was smooth and white. Her hair was shiny and black. She was very good and honest, and she had never been sick. It was as if nothing could harm her. She guided her father when he had to work. But his blindness kept him from work, and little by little, all they owned had to be sold to keep them alive. The old man Shim became a beggar. He felt ashamed that his daughter had to go with him to beg for coins. One day, he went out alone. He tripped and fell into a ditch. He tried to climb out, but he couldn't. Then a strong hand reached out and lifted him up, and a voice spoke to him. "Give me 300 bags of rice for the temple, old man, and in time you shall have your eyes once again." It was the voice of a priest from the temple, and the old man's heart filled with hope. That evening, he told his daughter what had happened. But as he told her, his hope went away, and he got very, very sad. "Aigo, aigo, there is no way for beggars like us to get so much rice." That night, as Shim Chung drifted off to sleep, she sighed, "What to do? What to do?" "Do as I say," someone answered. In a dream, her dead mother told her how to get the rice and help her father see again. The next morning, Shim Chung awoke early. She dressed in a long gray gown and a big hat. Then she walked to the house of a very rich merchant. Now, this merchant owned many, many boats that brought rice to faraway China. But there was a river dragon who would not let the boats go through. He would spit water and lash the waves with his tail. It was too dangerous for boats to sail. "What must I give you? What must I do so my boats may go through?" said the merchant to the dragon. "You must bring me a beautiful girl," the dragon answered. And so the merchant spread the news far and wide. He would offer 300 bags of rice to the girl who would give herself to the dragon. Shim Chung told the merchant that she wished to offer herself to the dragon. "You do not deserve to die. You are a good daughter, and you are dutiful to your father." But there was no other way for Shim Chung to get the rice, so the bargain was made. The next day, Shim Chung watched the horses carry the bags of rice to the priest's temple. Then she bowed before the tomb of her mother and prayed, Oh, heavenly spirits, care for my father until he is cured. And she spoke to her neighbors. Oh, kind neighbors, care for my father until he is cured. Then she set forth to keep her part of the bargain. She wore a beautiful gown of green and red with jewels and golden ribbons in her hair. Her beauty shone brighter than the sun in the eastern sky. Soon they came to the place in the river where the dragon lashed his huge tail. It was time to sacrifice Shimchang to the dragon. The merchant wanted to save her. Oh, river dragon, do not take this girl. But the river dragon demanded the beautiful girl. So Shimchang said goodbye to the merchant. She closed her eyes and jumped off the side of the boat and disappeared into the water. Instantly, the river became calm and quiet like a garden pool. Shimchang floated through the water. Pearls flashed before her eyes. Big rainbow-colored fish danced by, and sea plants tickled her nose as she brushed past them. At last, she arrived at the palace of the dragon. Kind sir, I am the daughter of the blind beggar, Shim. I am not worthy to come before one so important as you. The river dragon spoke. A message has come to us from Hananim, the emperor of heaven and earth. You shall be rewarded for your goodness to your blind father. Then sea maidens dressed Shimchang in the finest clothes. They gave her the softest sleeping mats and the richest food. In this life of comfort and ease, Shimchang grew more beautiful than ever. Then one day, the maidens took her to a giant lotus blossom that lay on the river bottom, and they put her right in it. It was so large that it covered her completely. Goodbye, Shimchang, said the river dragon. Goodbye, Shimchang answered back. And soon she felt herself rising like a bubble up through the water. When she reached the top, she was floating next to the boat of the rice merchant. But the rice merchant did not see her. All he saw was the blossom. Never in heaven or on earth was there such a lotus flower as this, said the merchant. Let us take it to the king. The merchant presented the flower to the king. The king was delighted. No one else in all the world had such a blossom. Every day he admired it floating in the garden pool. All day long, Shimchang hid inside the giant flower. Then one night, as she ventured out of the blossom, the king discovered her. She ran to hide, but the blossom had disappeared. The king looked at her. Can this be a spirit? She is so beautiful. He called his wise men. On the day the lotus flower was brought to the king, a bright new star had appeared in the sky. That's a good sign. And so he made Shimchang his wife. Shimchang was happy in her life as a queen, but some days she would think of her poor father. Here I have all I want, but my poor father's eyes are closed to the world. One day, the king saw her weeping. I go, my husband, Shimchang said to the king. I have had a dream about a blind man. It makes me cry. I should like to do something for all the blind people in the kingdom. So a message was sent to all the blind beggars of the kingdom to invite them to a feast in the king's courtyard. 1 day, 2 days, and 3 days passed. Beggars came from far and near to eat rice and kimchi. Queen Chung watched every day, hoping the next person would be her father. The end of the feast came, and still no father. Then one day, there was a noise in the courtyard. A latecomer was being pushed about by the servants. "Father, father, it is my dear father. Let him stay." She ordered her servants to dress him in new clothing and bring him to her chamber. "What wonder is this?" said the old man Shim, when he heard his daughter's voice. "Do apricots bloom in the snow? Do horses have horns? Do the dead men come to life? How can I be sure you are truly Chung?" And he rubbed his eyes. Suddenly, just as the temple priest had promised, the old man's sight returned. "Oh, my goodness, you are beautiful," he said. The king welcomed Shim Chung's father into the palace, and Queen Chung was happy all day long. Her father could see again. This was the heavenly reward to the dutiful daughter of the blind beggar Shim. The story of the blind man's daughter, Shim Chung, is just one of the many folk tales from Korea. You can find others in your school or public libraries. Stories such as The Man Who Lived 1,000 Years and A Korean Cinderella, Kongji Patji. Read and enjoy the folk tales from Korea and from all over the world. Share a story with a friend so our tales will never end.
The preceding program was funded in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.